Hi, everybody. How you doing? My name is Ryan Anderson, and I'm the Associate Dean of Business and Entrepreneurship here at Mohawk College. Thanks for joining us again for another part of our Snackable Speaker Series. I'd love to welcome you today to Nikki Morrison and Katie Sear. Nikki and Katie are products of the Center for Entrepreneurship, both in our e-co-op program as well as our Surge program. Really excited to learn from Nikki and Katie today at different stages of their entrepreneurship journey. We're going to talk about mentorship today, and mentorship to me is something that is so very important. Every solid entrepreneur will have someone or some people behind them who have backed them in their journey in coaching and being that person to lead them. And I know a lot about both of these young ladies' stories, and I can't wait for them to share with you today. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Nikki, who will tell you a little bit about her business, and then we'll talk with Katie after that. Go ahead, Nikki.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ryan. So yes, I am Nikki. I'm a small business owner in professional photography for 10 years now. I graduated with psychology, and currently I am starting up a new venture into technology as an electrical student in order to contribute technology to the frontier of capturing plastic pollutions in our environment. And I'll hand it off to Katie.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I own the Monarch Tea Co here in Hamilton. I'm also a Tea Sommelier through the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada. So I sell loose leaf tea, and I also offer virtual and in-person guided tea workshops and tastings.
It's so neat to have two completely varied backgrounds. It's this will be a lot of fun. The one thing that I think will bind everyone together, though, is that need for mentorship as well, won't it? So Nikki, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your mentors? What have they meant to you? What have they given you, and how do you use them every day in your journey?
So I started out not really knowing I was being mentored as a young girl, but my mom and my dad are superpowers when it comes to entrepreneurship now that I'm older and I can kind of see the top down of things. And then university, I started reaching out to my own mentors, and now I have a backing of Von Wog, who recently is promoting marketing for Closing the Plastic Tap. You can check it out, really cool artivist. And Pollyanna Reed, who is a ghostwriter in Toronto. So I kind of try to diversify my pool of mentors, and I utilize them to really, because even when you are an expert, there's a blizzard of decisions that you need to do that people with experience, compounded experience, can help you navigate a lot better.
Interesting. Katie, yourself?
Wow, I'm nodding because my experience is very similar to Nikki's. My number one support has always been my mom. So she has always run her own business, an interior design business. And so from a young age, I would help her with her business and answer the phones for her. And she's still to this day someone I go and turn to for advice because she's dealt with everything under the sun as well. Similar to Nikki as well, I've had a few different amazing people in my life that have helped contribute and mentor. So I have some other female entrepreneurs in the community that I love asking questions and talking to because either they've gone through similar experiences as well. My husband and my mom are the two people in my life I super trust asking questions and bouncing ideas off of because they're so full of knowledge and really help me work out situations. And then on a professional levels, with the Surge program was amazing. As part of winning the Surge contest, I won a mentorship with Larry Bittner, and he's been a wonderful person to speak to and connect with at monthly meetings and just bounce ideas off of. And also what I love about a mentorship is they hold you accountable. So I had one thing I wanted to really do in my business, and I wrote it down with Larry at the starting of our sessions, and it kind of just helped keep me accountable to, hey, did you get that thing done? Hey, what's the ETA on that? And it helped me actually make something into fruition that had been on my list for a long time. So some really great people in the community that I love and have helped me so much in my journey.
Katie, it's interesting because, if you have a quote unquote boss, they hold you responsible to timelines and projects getting done. When you're an entrepreneur, you're your boss, and your effort level, your energy level, your motivation level is always going to swing up and down. And sometimes those mentors giving you that firm kick and actually going and pushing it a little bit, I think might be the biggest test you can have as an entrepreneur as well. And listening. And that sometimes is hard. Most entrepreneurs get into their business because they want to be their own boss, and they don't want to have to listen, and they want to chart their own path. And that can be a tough thing to take sometimes too, can it? Interesting.
Absolutely.
Nikki, how about you? What lessons have you learned from your mentors?
Oh, where do I begin?
Mhm.
So I really think reading is like critical. It is an artery. Mentors can bring you to water, but they can't make you drink. And so there are some things that you really have to take initiative on. I read a lot about Ray Dalio that got me on this kick on understanding economics and what I can do to protect myself during recessions and hedging your bets. I also read Rework, which highlighted, small businesses. And then there's this other book called Playing to Win, which highlights large businesses and how those differences in businesses go. But and then they can also, talk to you about it. But yeah, the experiences too, they go a long way. And so far as the day-to-day, how you talk to somebody, how you turn a conversation into a sale, and what your initiatives are, and like keeping your mentor engaged in what you're doing.
Interesting that mentorship doesn't need to be just a person or someone that's close to you, but it could be a source of information as well. That's something I never thought of before. I think that's brilliant. I really do. Katie, has there been a time when a mentor has disagreed with something you've wanted to do, and you've had that discussion where you want to do something, the mentor said, well, I'm not really sure, or they pointed that direction? Can you talk to us a little bit about how that conversation went?
Oh, I'm sure there's been many times in the past. I'm thinking a lot of it comes down to I feel like I express myself really well through email and writing. But sometimes if there's, let's say, a disagreement with a client, I'll start typing out my response and I feel like it's really good. But I've either called up a mentor or someone I respect and like kind of walk through them with it. And you always have to, at the end of the day, go with your own instinct and your gut, and your business best. But I really suggest to folks that if they're about to send a heated email, like taking literally a step away, going through it, because you might even disagree with your mentor. They might say, hey, I actually would word it this way, or that came across as this. And just taking that space, you can still make your own decision at the end of the day. But definitely in terms of like difficult conversations or broaching something uncomfortable with a client, like if you're not sure, running it through your mentor, because there has been times where they've disagreed with what I was going to write. But I'm actually glad I listened and took a moment to settle back and realize maybe this came across as too harsh, or this might have sounded unprofessional. Let me rework that and send a new copy once I've cooled down. So that has been a huge tool, like especially when I'm unsure of how to broach a difficult conversation, running it by someone else that you trust is so fantastic.
Those instinctual emails that you want to send. I always say my indoor voice and my outdoor voice, right? And sometimes we have, to quote the Disney leadership style, we have an on-stage presence and an off-stage presence. And sometimes our on-stage presence is completely different from what you want to say, as opposed to what you need to say and how you need to be as well, doesn't it?
On that note, I just thought of one other comment just for folks out there as well. Something else I've noticed in the past that I've jumped on really quickly is sending a quote, because I'll get so excited about a potential opportunity. So sometimes I'll just be, okay, it's going to be this much, and I'm so excited. But I also recommend that is a great part to like pause. You don't need to respond right that second. Really work out your numbers, maybe run it by your mentor, see if that makes sense. Don't jump on the sale just to get the sale. Make sure that the finances make sense to you. Don't just blurt out a number, either it be through phone or email. There's been many times I've now learned from that and said to a client, let me just crunch some numbers. I'll get back to you by end of day, or by, tomorrow end of day. And make sure you're confident in those numbers you're sending across versus just like quickly sending out something because you're so excited. So that's another place where like running it by a mentor or yourself has been really helpful.
Okay, that's interesting. We're taking a bit of a side step from mentorship, but I'll make one comment in that, a person on the other end of that email doesn't really know nor care where you got your numbers from or how you got your numbers from. They just know that the part of the business deal is those numbers. And sometimes taking your time to respond to something is, we live in a very instant gratification sort of world, don't we? And there's a lot of power in taking a step back and composing a response, not giving a response. And that's something that I know my personal mentors have taught me in business, as well as my own career now in academics, that it's okay to take 10 minutes or even respond by end of day, because what you'll give them when you're ready is a lot more in context and value than what you give them as you sit there really quick. that's a challenge for us in an environment, in a world that goes very, very fast. It
Yes.
really is. So, Nikki, how about you? Have there been times when, your mentors have given you an idea that you either didn't like or disagree with a path that you're going in, and how'd that go?
My goodness, this is my favorite
I
question.
can tell by the smile on your face you were ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear it.
I will not, I'll keep you the Coles Notes version because the long one, although it's juicy, we don't have time for. So my father, I look up to, respect, very great man, international businessman, very intimidating on that note, very smart, Queen's engineering graduate. And we're having dinner and he tells me that he's gonna do this great thing. And I tell him, I ask him, I'm like, okay, in light of, reviving the national engine of this country, what is the process to manage plastics? And he's like, you're ridiculous. I'm going to alleviate people out of poverty and you're telling me plastic is a bigger issue. And I just sat there with my, my tail between my legs and I said, I think so. I don't know. And so we walked away from the table and he comes back to me a couple months later and he goes, Nikki, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, what did I do? And he's like, I owe you an apology. And I was like, for what? And he's like, because I went to London, I spoke to a good friend of mine and I told them the situation. I said, here is me, I'm going to alleviate people out of poverty and I'm going to, create this economic engine. And my daughter says this to me, that plastic is a bigger issue. And you can see we're going in opposite directions here. What do you think? And this very affluent friend of his looks dead in his eyes and says, your daughter's right. And for a man who's been very capable, very smart his entire life, he says, Nikki, I owe you an apology. I really underestimated the issue at hand here. And I appreciate your insights. And I was like, all right, let's go. I do have something here. And that kind of just dug my heels into the ground on my initiatives and what I'm trying to do, that, people can see what's happening.
It's funny, as a business person, I'm really jazzed by that example. As a father of two teenage girls, I'm not that jazzed by that example because the thought of having to admit that I was wrong, I think it's really hard.
It's very hard.
No, but it is and it isn't. I mean, I think, again, going back to, an entrepreneur and failing, and Katie, we've talked about this in other sessions, that is the best, sometimes the biggest lesson you can learn, the biggest successes you learn is actually from changing your mind and being open and failing. It really is. Now, that conversation was over dinner. You need to let me know though, did dinner get cold? Because that sounds like not a short conversation at all.
No, actually it was pretty well that brief. It didn't, because eventually if people are willing to disagree, they also are willing to do their own research.
Good for you.
And if I don't have the expertise to convince you at this table, then take it away and figure it out for yourself. And that's exactly what happened.
I love that. Now we'll wrap this session up. I know myself, I was always coached to have what was called a personal board of directors. So take, have one mentor, but also have a few, one that might be the numbers person, one might be the customer person, one that might be the advertising. Find some things that you may think, a lot about, but get someone that might give you a different perspective. It's important, I think, to have a few and not have someone, and look for someone that actually might outwardly be different from you and disagree. It really is. So Katie, I'll sort of pivot to you on this last question that we have. For the people out there that may be interested in starting their own business, when is it important to get that mentor? When is it important to choose the mentor? And how do you choose that person or people?
Ooh, wonderful. I would say there's no right stage to choose a mentor. You could do it as soon as you're starting your business. You could do it midway. Someone like myself, in 7 years in business, I just brought on a new mentor, meeting Larry. So you can have different people at different steps of the way. Similar to what Nikki said, do your research, start even looking at books and resources, looking online. For example, I'm part of a Facebook group called the Hamilton Fempreneurs, and it's like a female entrepreneur group. So finding your community and people that you can look at resources. For example, they used to have free in-person meetings once a month. Now they're virtual, but you can go and start learning and connecting and networking with people, and you might even meet your next mentor there. So there's any stage. So I would say looking at an online community with whatever business you're interested in, you're passionate about. starting to connect to people, say hi, reach out, and you never know who you're going to connect with and click with. Even if it's a quick Zoom chat or a conversation or meeting for a cup of tea, you never know who you can really click with.
Katie, it's incredible because this is really where entrepreneurship has changed. It really has, and that it used to be that we would keep our ideas close to the vest. We wouldn't tell anybody. We wouldn't talk to anybody. They were very proprietary, if you will. Now we collide, and we look for opportunities to collide, and we look for opportunities to create. And the secrets that the two of you are giving us today, you may not have done 20 years ago when it was a very secretive sort of thing. So it really is invigorating, energetic too, isn't it? Because none of us have the answers. They really don't. Nikki, how about you? When is that time for someone that you would suggest to reach out and to sort of look for those sources of mentorship?
This is not the ideal answer, but it's the one I'm going to give. And I would say as soon as possible. I think if you can have a mentor as like a 10-year-old up until you're in your teens and you don't know life and you don't know what's going on and it's just nice to have someone there who's not your parent at times. And that can really kind of give you coaching and guidance on I think it's imperative not to ask high schoolers, what do you want to do? But give them the tools to deal with what they're going to want to do. And that will take them the distance. And so we need mentors who understand what that means and help them navigate a world where decisions are going to change, markets are going to change, and you need to know how to stay on top of it.
That's fantastic. And that's not just as an entrepreneur, that's just for us, period, isn't it? That's
everyone.
So Katie, Nikki, I really appreciate you taking the time. You've got stories that are so relatable to our students, that are so applicable to anybody when it comes to business and mentorship. And I know that the students that are taking this in their classes and the people out in the community watching will find a lot of value for these things. So I'd really like to thank you for taking the time. I know that you'll be on some different snackable sessions in the future, but please know how much myself personally and us at the center really appreciate the time you're giving and your insight. So thanks so much.
Thank
you
you
so much. Bye.